Hey everybody, it's Dan with Pain for You. Today was one of those days where I just didn't get out of my pajamas all day. So I'm wearing a comfy sweater or sweatshirt, sweatpants. Woke up this morning with a pretty bad stomach bug, was on the floor in the bathroom, not sure if I should poop or sit down. So definitely a fun start to the day. Anyway, after a long day of running my business, doing 3 coaching calls, I did not get a chance to get outside before nightfall, so I'm shooting indoors. So today's topic is going to be slow down and what to do when you're in crisis. So as you can imagine, with a community that's grown like this, I will oftentimes get emails. And it is very clear in the first couple of sentences that the person writing the email is pretty frantic, pretty desperate, pretty freaked out about what's going on with their symptoms, with their pains. And they are on high alert, they're hyper vigilant, they are overanalyzing every sensation in their body. They're probably spending some time on Google or Wikipedia or WebMD and really trying to understand what the heck is going on. They may have had doctors pretty much tell them they're broken and they're pretty well screwed because their body's at fault. And they may have been in this position with this medicalization that I call it for months, years, or even decades. And so one of the first things I want to tell you, and thank you to my dear friend Susie out in the UK for pointing this out, is that when people are in crisis, it's extremely important for us to slow down, right? And many of us are perfectionists, and many of us are saying, okay, this is the TMS thing. All right, I know what this is. I got to do this. And I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to do it perfectly. And now we're putting more stress on ourselves to say, all right, I have a direction. I'm going to do it great. I'm going to go all out with it. And sometimes that just puts more pressure on ourselves, and it really, really stresses us out even more because we are so... Once we've embraced the concept of what TMS is, this too much stress, this stress illness, this psychophysiological pain disorder, once we've embraced that, it's very easy to get excited by that and decide, I'm going to dive right in, right? And so what I will encourage you is if you're in a state of heightened nervous system sensitization and just basically feeling pretty wired, pretty panicked, pretty freaked out by everything that's going on, the first thing I will encourage you to do strongly is to slow down. Right? Slow down. As you know, part of the process is do the emotional discovery, feel your feelings, soothe yourself, get the mindset right. But so many people find that, okay, think psychologically, I'm going to dive right into the emotional stuff. But if you are already in a state of heightened anxiety and stress and freak out, sometimes the process of feeling the emotions is too sudden and too jarring. And we're kind of told, dive in, do it anyway. And what I would say is for anybody who's truly in crisis, somebody who is like really, really has their life shrunken to the size of a pillbox, because of the symptoms, because of the limits on themselves physically, the first thing you want to do is perhaps not dive right into the emotional work, the emotional discovery, as I call it. The first thing you really want to do is slow down. All right. And one of the things that you can do to slow down is breathing, breath work. And there's all sorts of theories on this. There's all sorts of techniques. And I don't have any one thing that I will tell you is the best, right? Because there's box breathing. There's inhale for 7, hold for 4, and exhale for 8. And, they say if the exhale is longer than the inhale, then it has a ability to calm the nervous system. And there's all sorts of techniques, and they're all probably pretty good. But one of the things that my friend Susie pointed out to me is instead of trying to fit into a rigid structure of box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, wait for 4, and do all this stuff, why not just find your own breath, right? Whatever that is, whatever that natural rhythm is, Because many of us, when we're under stress, we breathe very shallow. And when you're really under stress, you probably can't remember the last time that you took a deep breath. And so breathing is one of those things that if you're not paying attention to it, your body just naturally does. It's part of the autonomic nervous system that you can breathe without thinking of it. That's why we can breathe when we're sleeping. We're not even consciously aware. But it is also one of the things that happens automatically that we can consciously control, breathing. And so, again, as my friend Susie pointed out, this can be the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. And if you can take conscious control of a subconscious process, that may allow you to kind of get in there and turn the dials on this autonomic nervous system, which is in fight or flight, freak out mode, and consciously turn it down with something as simple as just becoming aware of your breath, watching it, feeling it, and just getting present with it. Every time your mind flitters off to, this is stupid, what are you doing this for? Bring it back to the breath. Anytime your mind jumps ahead to, you're going to be in pain forever, this breathing thing is stupid, bring it back to the breath. And what you're going to find is that after doing this for a little bit of time, you're going to start to feel a calm come over you. And I've been playing with this for a couple of days. And even though I don't have symptoms right now, I find it very soothing. So as I talk about feel your emotions and soothe, breathing is one of the great ways to soothe. I also recommend getting outside. Why? Because we get away from the clutter. We get away from the artificial lights. We get some natural sunlight on our face, in our eyes. We get the fresh air, the breeze. It's soothing to me. And I believe it is soothing to most everybody. And if you can combine getting outside with a little bit of breath work and breath awareness, I think that's, one of the simple things you can do to bring yourself out of this chaos and out of this freak out mode into a little bit of being centered and just aware of the present moment. So I think that is really important. So when I say slow down, I really encourage you, if you're in that heightened freak out state and you just learned about TMS, or you're just committing to it or just embraced it, went through an assessment and said, okay, maybe this is me, let me dive into the emotional stuff. You might be agitating the system that's already kind of wired and electrical. So yes, breathing, slow down. What I will also tell you is that depending upon your knowledge of TMS and Dr. Sarno and the other great books out there by Steve Ozanish, Nicole Sachs, Howard Schubner, Dr. David Clark, if you're not very aware of that stuff, sometimes as you are learning to turn down the volume on your stress level and get yourself out of freak out and out of chaos into a more calm state, the knowledge is also a very useful thing to do, because part of what we want to do in getting out of freak out is to turn the volume down on our fear. Well, Sarno was really, really a big proponent on knowledge therapy. And so by teaching and by doing the knowledge, it has a tendency to turn down the fear. And you may even find that my videos have a tendency to allow you to calm down and not be quite as afraid. Simply because I keep repeating and teaching the same concepts, that your body's okay, you're not broken, right? Feel your emotions, they're safe, they're normal. It's okay to feel them. It doesn't make you a bad person, right? Soothe yourself afterwards. Then get the mindset right. The mindset's pretty much develop a mindset of indifference. Don't care whether the symptoms are there or not today. Decide, I'm going to have a good day anyway. Because if you're hurting today, you can either lie on the floor freaking out, catastrophizing about your future, or you can take a deep breath, slow down, remind yourself of what TMS is, read some of the book, bring your level down, bring the intensity down, bring the freak out down. And then when you realize that TMS is benign, it's not a disease, it's just a little short-circuiting in the nervous system to distract you from these emotions that you were previously taught are not acceptable or are unsafe and that your emotions are actually safe, now all of a sudden you start to go, wow, there's really not much to be freaked out about. Yes, massively uncomfortable. Yes, the symptoms can be very limiting in what we can do. But that's why I try to teach this whole concept, knowledge, assessment, and acceptance of TMS as your issue. Do the emotional discovery process. Soothe yourself. Get the mindset dialed in. And that's it, really. It's not much more complicated than that. And when you realize and truly accept that you have TMS and accept that TMS is not harmful permanently, it's massively uncomfortable, but it's not damaging to the body, despite what the symptoms feel like, you'll realize, okay, freaking out is not the answer. Freaking out never helped anybody get better. And so I will strongly encourage you, if you find yourself in crisis and finding yourself still freaking out and finding that the emotional discovery is really agitating and really scaring you, and really you get a flare in symptoms when you do the emotional discovery because your brain's really amping up the distraction to keep you distracted, and that amp up in the symptoms distracts you further and causes you to freak out more, I'm going to encourage you to maybe take a step back from the emotional discovery work. We don't necessarily need to uncover every stone that was flipped over as a child. We don't have to fix and heal every trauma. We have to realize that this whole process is benign. It's TMS. It's a distraction process. It's really a fraud by the brain to keep you distracted by saying, look over here, don't pay attention to those scary, dark emotions. So, slow down. Slow down. A great first step is learn to get present. Learn to intentionally breathe deeper and slower. And fill your lungs up. You may realize that, wow, I don't remember the last time I filled my lungs up with a nice, deep, calming breath. Go outside if you must, but slow down. And if you feel like you must do something, spend a little time on the knowledge, because in and of itself, gaining the knowledge about TMS and maybe, looking for some success stories will help you turn down the freak out, will help you turn down the stress, will help you see the potential that, wow, if all these other people are getting better, I can too. And all that will help with your mindset of not caring as much about the symptoms, and we don't care about the symptoms because there's nothing really wrong. Yesterday's video was trying to heal. There's nothing to heal, right? So you're seeing a theme here. You're seeing a constant thread. But for those in crisis, I think the best thing to do, thank you, Susie, is to slow down, to really just settle. And look, for some people who have been in crisis for years, you may have to slow down for a while. It may take you days, weeks, maybe even a month or two to really get your nervous system to just calm down, right? One way to do that also is to be aware of our thinking. Our nervous system, our physiology can't tell the difference between a real threat, like a bear chasing us, or an imagined threat, like, oh my God, if I go out with these people, I'm going to be judged, I'm going to feel like an idiot and feel like a failure, right? The body reacts the same way physiologically. We get into the stress mode, the fight, the flight, the freeze, the stress, the adrenaline, the cortisol floods our body. That happens whether the stress is from a real imminent danger happening in reality right now, or just these perceived, imagined scenarios and thoughts that cause the same physical reaction. So slow down. Slow down your breathing. Don't be ready to dive in and I'm going to fix myself in 3 days. And if I don't do that, then I'm doing it wrong. Did that for 13 years. I was convinced I was doing everything wrong, when in fact I was missing, in my mind, after looking backwards, I was missing the mindset component of this whole picture for over a decade. took me a long time to figure this stuff out on my own. And that's why I'm so compelled to teach these concepts. Really, really important. So, if you are in crisis, if you are in a high state of freak out, no offense, that term may trigger people, but if you're freaking out, you probably know it because you feel pretty freaked out. If you wake up and you get a pain flare and you end up, crying to somebody or freaking out or screaming and help me, you're freaking out. Your nervous system is on high alert. And honestly, those things don't help us. And I know we want to get rid of the pain or the symptoms immediately. We're desperate for that. But sometimes the best first thing you can do, or the best thing you can do during a flare, which is also kind of a little mini crisis, is remind ourselves it's just TMS. There's nothing wrong with my body. I'm actually fine. I know I have TMS. I accept that. And I'm going to get my mindset right that there's really nothing to fear. It's discomfort, which you've lived through before, so you know you're going to live through it again. So you may as well say, well, how much fun can I have today? Because if I'm going to have this pain today, I may as well do it with some laughter, joy, connection with other people than keeping my life minimized and shrunken to avoid the outside world and suffer in silence and suffer alone. I'm not saying go out and meet with other people and complain about your symptoms all the time. What I'm telling you to do is get out of your head and engage with other people as much as possible. Stop thinking about the pain. That doesn't help. Brain science, it wires when you think about it all the time. It stays wired. So look, if you're in a crisis, the first thing you want to do is slow down. A great place to start is the breathing. Learn to find your own rhythm with your breath. Learn to notice it. If your thoughts, ants, they call them, automatic negative thoughts. If these ants go scrambling through your brain and trying to distract you, just keep bringing it back to the breath. Takes a little practice, but that'll get you present. And then if you want to dive into this work, kind of shift your focus to the knowledge if you don't have that yet. If you've already read 6 Sarno books and you're still in a state of chaos, you probably already have the knowledge. Work on the mindset. Reassure yourself it's just TMS, you're okay. Get the mindset working. When you feel like you've brought things down a little bit, yes, you still want to do the emotional discovery. This wasn't a free pass away from that. Because if you're resistant to the emotional discovery, it's probably because you still believe emotions are dangerous, right? Because we've learned that. We were taught that as a kid. Certain emotions aren't okay. They're scary. They're dangerous. And they don't fit in with our own image of who we believe we are. I'm not the angry guy. Excuse me. But yet, I still get angry. So, let me know what you guys think. If you're in crisis, learn to breathe. If the emotional discovery is making your crisis worse, take a pause. Stop that for now and learn to slow down and turn down the volume on your fears, your stress, your nervous system. Learn to breathe deeply. Get outside. Do what you can to turn down the volume because you are really okay. So do yourself a favor and slow down. This is not a sprint to see who can get better the fastest. This is a process where we want to treat ourselves kindly with love and respect and recognize that if you're in a freak out state, what would you do? You'd want to slow down first. So let me know your thoughts. Susie, again, thank you for the topic. I hope I did it justice. And for everybody else, slow down. And we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Love you.